Good morning, Bitcoin. Today is Monday, February 5th, 2018. My name is Thomas Hunt, and we're watching the price of Bitcoin live. It's $6,736. As you can see, a major decline from the all-time high of 19,666. We're watching the prices on Bitstamp. We're also looking at the news, where the Dow Jones Industrial Average is down more than 552%. Or 552 points, sorry. That's 2%. A 2% decline for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and the price of Bitcoin is down as well. We're joined by an all-star cast of panelists, including Andy Hoffman. How's it going, Andy?
Oh, couldn't be better. And the Dow is, by the way, down 900 points now. So this is definitely getting to be a risk-off thing, aside from the crypto thing.
We're also joined by Jeffrey Jones, the Vortex. How's it going?
How's it going, guys? I'm hodling strong.
And a newcomer, Corey. Welcome to the show.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
All right, so we're watching the price of Bitcoin. We're also checking out the Bitcoin news. We want to start off with the, let's see, entire screen. Share the entire screen, Google. You can do it. We want to start off with the sad news that a college student committed suicide after cryptocurrency losses. This is a very sad story. It's a loss for the entire Bitcoin community. If you're not feeling well, if you've lost too much money, talk to someone, talk to a friend, call the suicide hotline. There's people out there that can talk to you, and you can get through this. It's okay. A lot of us are in this for the long term. We're going to hold. We're not that worried about this, but if you just bought at 20,000 and now it's worth 7,000 and you're freaking out, talk to someone. Okay, don't make this another story like this. So we're back to $7,000 on a Bitcoin as we talk about it. And Vortex, what are your thoughts on that story? What are your thoughts so far generally? How are you feeling today?
Yeah, so a lot of people, I'm sure, are wondering how the long-term hodlers are feeling, but ironically, you already know how we're feeling, right? We're hodling. This is a game-changing, brand new asset class. This is a completely new technology, so we are fully expecting this kind of crazy volatility. Nobody knew how high it was going to go, and we did, in hindsight, now can look back and see, okay, 20K, that's how high we went. Every single high that was purchased in Bitcoin has been smashed. So every single time somebody bought on the high, they eventually were okay if they had held, right? So everything is down at this point. Regular stock market's down over $1 trillion. This stuff happens in cycles. And it will continue to happen in cycles. Is this the end of the world for Bitcoin? Absolutely not, right? We know that this is going to go lower. It's probably going to go to around 5,500 or so, and probably bounce from there, and then go between 5 and 8K for a little while here until we eventually go back over 10K. It's not going to be this multi-year bear market. This is not the end of the world. The fundamentals are still there. This is what we're here to do, is let you guys know this information, right? And kind of calm the nerves a little bit, because there are people freaking out who don't understand market cycles, who don't understand human psychology, who don't understand next gen world changing technologies and how they evolve. And remember, like, we're only at 1 or 2% adoption. I mean, we're not even really very far into the early adopter cycle. So we have lots, many years to go. As I continue to tell people, this is early days, and you better believe that there is now a whole new generation of whales that are onto this technology, that are circling, just waiting for the right time to buy. So it's we will have with this violent of a crash of a fall down, we'll probably have a pretty violent bounce. But then we'll go sideways a little bit and capitulate. This is, again, not the end of the world for Bitcoin at all. In fact, there is insane amounts of technology that will be coming out this year. I mean, the biggest thing is the people working on Lightning. This is a game changer. This is being worked on now, not a couple of years from now, right now. So there's a lot of exciting things to look forward to this year, and I'm still super excited.
And as we're looking at this right now, we are seeing what could be a Bitcoin recovery. We have 2 large green candles, and we are back to 7,057. The chat seems happy. Just want to agree with you. When you're buying Bitcoin, what you're buying is you're showing your faith in technology. You're saying that I believe in not only Bitcoin, the original system that we've been using and the blocks and the fees and all the troubles we've had. But not only that, but the Lightning Network and Rootstock and side chains, Liquid, all of the other promises that come with the new technology. Something like Bitcoin is only the beginning. If you look as Lightning as the currency, side chains, the ability to create anything, potentially ICOs on Bitcoin with Rootstock, Bitcoin technologically is incredibly strong. And that's what you're buying. That's what you're putting your faith in. Andy, your comments on this?
Well, I have some major comments, but I'm going to start with what I just mentioned at the beginning of this call. It's funny because just before this phone call, I put out an article at my blog, said it was called, "Is Crypto Becoming a Casualty of Risk Off?" And as we know, Bitcoin is, forget crypto. Bitcoin has been the most uncorrelated asset class we've ever seen, for good reason, because not only is it an evolving technology, but it really has nothing in common with any other assets. And that's a big reason why the institutions are going to like it. And people, you're talking about how the price has jumped up $400 since this call started, what, 5 minutes ago? Well, take a look at what the stock market is doing. It is now down 1,500 points. The Nasdaq's down 250. I'm talking about this just started. The Dow is down 1,000 points since this call started 5 minutes ago. And it's not a coincidence that Bitcoin started jumping, and even gold jumped up a few points. It is showing that it is digital gold. This rebound right now you're seeing on the screen in Bitcoin is entirely due to it being a protective asset class because people are scared of what's going on in the stock market. I mean, this is the case in point of exactly why you own Bitcoin, among all of the other reasons, like the technology, like the fact that it can one day be a cornerstone of the global financial system. And if anyone knows me, I mean, they know what my background is of spending 15 years talking about the flaws in the fiat currency system. And of course, I was a major supporter of precious metals for all those years until I came across Bitcoin, which I just think is a superior asset. You know, this system is ripe for disaster. It has to, at some point, do what every fiat currency system is. This one lasted a lot longer, though, because of the advent of financial engineering. They figured out how to keep interest rates at zero or negative and to spend all their money printing money, buying up stock markets. Well, interest rates are rising now, and interest rates is what kills everything. And as a result, even these markets that they thought they can control, they cannot control. And it's funny because today is the day that the new Fed chairman is sworn in. So Janet Yellen actually escaped the carnage by one day. And so, you know, you're going to see if they lose control of this system, you know, anyone who left Bitcoin thinking that it's not useful is going to be unbelievably disappointed in a hurry.
And Corey, what about you? Do you think Bitcoin's still useful? Is it still something you're interested in?
Bitcoin, to me, Bitcoin is a phase of human evolution. It's not going anywhere. And one of the things I want to say is that these things take time. Evolution takes time. If it takes another 20 years for Bitcoin to do what we all expect it to do, then that's okay with me. And honestly, the price of Bitcoin, while those of us who live on Bitcoin need it to be a little higher than it is, it's a little uncomfortable right now. The reality is I'm more interested in the socially displacing effects of Bitcoin. Even for those in the future who don't own Bitcoin, Bitcoin will drastically affect their lives because of the displacing nature of it. And those are the things that I really am more looking forward to than even personally having $1 million Bitcoin. The banks need to be toppled, and that's all there is to it. And Bitcoin is what's going to do it.
All right, Jeffrey Jones, more on this?
Yeah, just a couple final points. Just, I mean, everybody's, you know, I think on the same page here. Everybody's making absolutely fantastic points. You know, this is how thought leaders are supposed to think. So I'm very proud to be on this panel. I'm very proud of everybody's comments here. I mean, I just have a few final points, which is like, look, the tech is still there, right? We still have the decentralized censorship-resistant technology. We still have the capabilities of doing things that only billionaires had the capability of doing before Bitcoin. We still have the store of value. And yes, it's going to fluctuate violently right now because it is such a tiny little pool, a tiny little puddle compared to the ocean that is fiat right now. But that is not going to be like that forever, right? This will play out over decades. There is only a few places that you can put your money, only a few places that you can put your money. And there's only a few places that you can actually even attempt to hide your money. This is all what JP Morgan, the big banks, this is what they do. And now, you know, with Bitcoin, we can still do that. Whatever the price is, it doesn't matter because Bitcoin technology is working and it will continue to work, and it continues to get better and better and better and more optimized. I mean, SegWit, the adoption right now is up. Lightning is continuing to being developed. The financial system is still crumbling, as Andy mentioned. They still have huge issues. They can't even control the S&P 500 anymore, apparently, like because that seems to be dropping like crazy. Everybody's points are valid, but I guess I just want to stress one more time that, you know, this is early days. We have a long way to go. It's early days even in 2018. It's only February. You know, the market has cycles. There will be things in spring. There will be things in summer. There will be things in fall. This is not the end of the year. Make no mistake, we have nowhere to go but up this year from here.
And let's go to Andy for a question on that. Andy, I've heard a lot of people say in the traditional stock market, there's these times of year where the price just goes down. They say January as well as the summer. People they don't have any money to buy stocks. They go away. The market's untended. What do you say to that? Could this just be a seasonal blues?
No. The stock market has completely been commandeered as of 2008. I mean, we've just had the longest run of stock increases in history. And again, it's not like there's great things going on in the world. We're talking about the Dow has been up, I think, like 25 months in a row. It never has even a down day of any significance. So, you know, what you're seeing now is a big deal. And what I've been saying, you know, I still talk about this stuff on the website, is that interest rates has always been the Achilles heel. And if they can't control interest rates, I mean, there's a reason why they still have negative interest rates in Europe and Japan, despite record stock prices and claiming everything is great, because rising interest rates destroys them. And so long as they can keep interest rates down by printing money and buying bonds, and at the same time printing money and buying stocks, then everything is great. The problem is once they realize that this doesn't work anymore, all bets are off. There hasn't been a seasonal decline. There hasn't been any decline in the stock market in years because it hasn't been allowed. That's why I'm watching so carefully now to see if they are losing a bit of control. And believe me, people, if interest rates are not put under control quickly, you're going to see carnage. And the thing is, you do have a new Federal Reserve chairman coming in today, and you do have the Fed claiming that it's going to be tapering its balance sheet. It still has not done that yet after all these years, and the interest rate is still just 1%, and in Europe it's negative. So, you know, you're going to see a major response from the central banks, and quick, going right back to QE and lowering interest rates if they can't get control of the markets. And then you're going to really see a wave of adoption into Bitcoin. Heck, you'll even see gold go up. It's what I've been waiting for years. But, you know, I mean, to sell Bitcoin at these levels simply because everyone else is selling is truly amazing. As I've been saying, and you all know, everyone listening pretty much knows, this is the first time in Bitcoin that I could recall where I don't really worry about anything. I really don't care. I'm not worried about the Chinese, the Koreans, Bcash. I mean, you still have to deal with the impacts of the price, but there's literally nothing negative going on. And this is the perfect time to get in. And guess what? You just got a 65% haircut based on, you know, no bad news.
So there's no seasonal decline, and Andy's not worried about anything.
Nothing.
It looked like we were going to be joined by Will Pangman there, but just as I was going to go to him, he turned the camera off. So hello to Will. Looks like you're somewhere tropical.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Will, go ahead.
I'm somewhere tropical, so thanks for having me back, guys. It's good to be back on WCN a bit. You guys are talking market prices, I'm sure.
Yes, sir. Just real quick, for those who don't know, this is Will Pangman. He is an OG, old school WCNer, and we are very excited to have him on here and get his opinion on what the heck is going on with the markets.
Yeah, well, I guess obviously we're below 7,000. This is a massive shaking of the tree of whatever it was, 20 million or so new crypto users joining our fine community over the past couple months. These are some very fragile hands. And I think that's what you're seeing is a lot of people who came in being shaken out by market makers and large players. I also think this, with developments in Venezuela, such as, this petro crypto and, what they're planning to do, backing it with oil and other sort of resource reserves they have, it's pretty fascinating. And I think that may have a role to play. I haven't crystallized a theory on that yet, but I definitely think that's involved. And I don't know, I hear a lot of, strong sentiment because I hang out with a lot of OGs or, I'm deep in the crypto community where people are seasoned to these volatile movements in the market. So yeah, it's pretty dramatic movement the last, I guess, 6 weeks. But there's nothing but good news, really. Well, I shouldn't say nothing but. There's China and there's all the FUD, but there's really just so many great developments. You know, Vortex and Thomas, you guys talk about the tech developments all the time going on in our space, and these are all very bullish things going on. So I would say, you know, this isn't financial advice or investment advice, but if you haven't sold yet, definitely hold. I mean, that's usually what I suggest in general, is just hold.
All right, thanks, Will, for that update. And we are watching the price of Bitcoin as it is 6,858. We saw a bit of a run up to 7,100. Before that, we were at 6,600. We're looking at Bitstamp. Looks like a diagonal line downward, then a jump up, and then back to where we are. Of course, we're on the 1 minute candles for what's that worth. So if we zoom back out, I know we've got Andy here, so he could probably do this better than me, but I was going to try some little technical chart analysis for you here. What they do is they line up the previous lows. So we look right here and we say, oh, there was a previous low around 5,300, so maybe we could go there. We look for some other previous lows, 4,200. Then it gets scary. You go 2,900. And we're also looking to see if we could line up one of these previous lows with some nice volume below, if we had some of these large green lines. So you want to say there's a definite floor around 3,000. People will pay 3,000 for a Bitcoin. And then there's another probable floor around 1,800 here. But Andy, what would you say to that? Is that about right?
Well, I mean, these are just, you know, technical rules, I guess, that may or may not work. I mean, you know, if you really want to look at technicals, you talk to technical experts like Tone. But to me, it doesn't really matter. I'm looking more at the fundamentals, because at this point, you know, as I tweeted yesterday, I said yesterday when it was 8,000, I said for $1.3 billion, you can buy 1% of all of the outstanding Bitcoin, not including the 3 or 4 million that's been gone forever. Of course, you need someone to sell you 168,000 Bitcoin. But now if you're at 7,000, you could do it for even less, probably for 1.1 billion. So we're talking about, this is now an institutional product. I mean, above $6,000, it's 100 billion market cap. That's what we were waiting for. And beyond that, the institutions have now done their due diligence. They have their accounts. They have analysts. They know very well what's going on. We certainly saw at January 1st that wall of institutional money come in. It certainly didn't come in efficiently, running into all these worthless alts and creating a bubble, which is the big reason why we're where we are today. But no, those institutions are there watching and waiting. And the amount of hodling for long term that's going to go on because the institutions are now watching is incredible. So look, I mean, yeah, I mean, people like to say, remember, when it's going up, people go, oh, it's 20, it's going to 50, it's going to 100. And then when it's down to 6, oh, it's going to 5, 3, 1. I mean, at some point, you're going to have people come in and buy massive positions, institutions, central banks, because the story now is dramatically different. As you know, Trace Mayer says, the product pre-SegWit is not the product post-SegWit. It's worth a lot more now. So there's no way it's ever going to go down to some of these ridiculous levels, because the whole world knows it's a working, functional technology. Now you have financial crises potentially on the doorstep, and Bitcoin is surging forward operationally like never before. So yes, you can look at the technicals. You can get scared of the FUD. You can follow the technical analyst to a T. But the fact is that the story is dramatically stronger. And I sense, you know, people who want to believe, oh, it's Mt. Gox, so it's going to go down exactly 90% and go to 2,000. No, it's not going to go to 2,000. It's going to find a higher low, much higher low than it was the last time around. And, you know, maybe we just reached it today. Who knows? But at some point, it'll stabilize, probably much sooner than people think. And then we'll start with the next leg up without all those 80%ers, as Adam Meister calls them, a lot more strong hands.
Yeah, right. Just to chime in there. Yeah, I just wanted to say, you know, there's sovereign wealth is finding its way into Bitcoin and, you know, crypto assets, I guess, but certainly Bitcoin. And this is not going to stop. It just began. So this is a huge trend. And I think, you know, nation states getting involved, central banks getting involved. This is the kind of stuff we speculated on 3 and 4 years ago and kind of laughed at each other around shows like this. But here it's happening, and these big players, they've manipulated many markets before, so they're going to play the game. They're going to, you know, play Bitcoin like the fiddle they're used to playing, and it's a bit of a different animal. But some of their tricks work, obviously, especially on some of the weak hands. And it's I think we see, like Andy's saying, you know, I don't know where the floor is, so I don't know what your favorite buy signals are, but I think governments and central banks paying attention and becoming stakeholders in Bitcoin is a huge buy signal or hold signal for anyone who's still holding. And especially, you know, there's the other trend is there's this annual trend where middle of January, the market, crypto markets and Bitcoin specifically take a hit. This is true, I think, the last 6 years. So it'll turn around at some point. I think before the end of February, we'll turn back around, and I think the run up continues. There's just too much demand for this product now, and I really like the comment Andy had about what Trace says. You know, it's a different animal. It's a different product now. It's much more valuable. We see this with the growth of Lightning Network nodes and channel connections. This is all super exciting stuff. So I'm walking around, you know, I check the price 2 or 3 times a day, and I'm like, oh man, just like everybody else, maybe I'm not feeling quite as scared or upset or whatever, but I just think about all the developments going on. This is a long game. This is a long game, and the governments and central banks know that too. So, and you're ahead if you bought Bitcoin before them. So hang on. And yeah, I think before the end of the month, I think things turn around.
All right, thanks, Will. A little bit more from the Vortex, and then we'd like to welcome Gabriel Devine. Vortex, what do you think?
Yeah, just a couple things, I guess. I just wanted to comment on, you know, the technical analysis real quick. Yeah, I mean, it's Fibonacci lines. You know, these prices do follow Fibonacci lines because everybody sets their price, their buy and their sell orders on these Fibonacci lines. So as many have said, this becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that's why you know, the prices hang around at these Fibonacci lines, because that's what everybody else is doing. So it's you know, people like to say a lot of things about technical analysis that it's just, you know, hooey, that it's just craziness. You can't possibly predict. And of course we can't predict, right? We don't use this to get exact numbers. We get this to get estimates, right? We try to make our best guesses with this stuff. So this is what it ends up doing. And it can be very, very, very helpful in that situation, especially specifically with crypto, when everything is speculation. You know, everything in crypto is the charts. We don't have a whole lot of real world use on this stuff yet. You know, the only real world use we have is Bitcoin. So everything else is just speculation. So you better believe that the technical analysis is the main thing, the main tool that we use to try to get the best prices, the best guesses in for these prices. And you know, again, just people zoom out a little bit. If you just zoom out back to 2013, just look at what we did. I mean, this is an incredible run up that we had, and it is not over yet. Again, people, it's very, very early days. And just remember the human psychology, right? Everybody buys when it's going up because they think, oh, it's valuable. But they always sell when it's going down because they think, oh, no. You know, so they buy on the high and they sell on the low. This happens in every market with everything from the beginning of time, pretty much. So that it only gets exacerbated when we have all these millions of new hands that aren't used to this kind of stuff. So this is just how it is, and we're fully expecting this to turn around very, very soon. And super excited to have Will on the podcast, Gabriel on the podcast, everybody here explaining this to you guys. This is how markets work, and we're going to be here whether Bitcoin is $1 or $1,000.
Well, and let's also remember the process that we're watching here. I remember a long time ago watching, I think it was an old Bitcoin channel video where he was showing a screencast of the very first Bitcoin charting system. And this is when you had one exchange, Mt. Gox, and the price was around $10, $12. It would go to $1. And this was the very first attempt to take that Mt. Gox data and turn it into a chart. And remember, what we're trying to do is discover the price of an asset. We're trying to discover the price of Bitcoin, for which there are 21 million units. It's fixed. They come out on a certain schedule with the halvenings, reducing the amount of production every 4 years, and it can be sent one way, and it's called Bitcoin. And we're trying to figure out the price, and it's very early, and usually normal people don't get to participate in these early markets. Things like Facebook stock and Twitter stock, they all did this same thing when they lost a feature, gained a feature. made a friend or lost a friend, and we didn't get to play because it was too early for us. With Bitcoin, it's a completely open market. You can put your $10 in, you can take your $10 out. Kids can play even. On that note, we're joined by another kid, Gabriel Devine. How's it going, Gabriel?
Hey, kids.
Hello,
Fellow schoolboys.
Yeah, go ahead, Gabe.
So I haven't looked at the price in since mid-November. It's about has it been flat? It's about the same as when I checked. We recovered from 55 drop, and that's where I left off. I've just been chilling, and
I've just been buying Apple Watches and leather shoes.
A couple things happened since then, Gabriel. Just a couple.
Okay, well, I've just been like fixing bugs in Lightning Network implementations, like typos, variable. I've been like fixing the variable names that had typos in them, and like making them a little bit more descriptive. And I was also breaking up some large methods. It's having too long of a method or function in your code is sloppy. So I've been breaking them up into so that each function only does one. So have I missed? I haven't had time to look on a chart. You guys invited me.
Yeah, Gabriel. So then, what are your thoughts then on this price decline? From the big 20,000 down to 7,000 here.
Yeah, well, I thought that was unsustainably fast parabolic rise. Bitcoin always has a hangover after moves like that. This is not a surprise at all. But it's typical as usual that newbies are very nervous about it. Oh no, like one of my old friends who ignored me in 2013, 14, 15, 16. Finally in 2017, he's like, hey, maybe I should do this. I said, you should. That was when it was 5,000. He finally got in at some point, and now he's like, asking me questions. I said, well, why weren't you asking me questions about like my fundamental belief in Bitcoin a month ago? Is it just because the price went down? And Beauty On likes to say that the price doesn't matter; it's just software. But of course, the price does matter for random psychological stuff. But also, Bitcoin can hold more value if it has a higher price. It's a Veblen good, right? It gets more valuable at the more it's worth. So in that sense, it does make a difference. I don't really think that the price. I mean, the market cap is so small, and the ecosystem is still so small that it's really easy to push around, and it's gonna be really easy to push around until Bitcoin, I think, reaches sort of the upper six figures. Then it'll be like, wow, you got to be a really big player to start manipulating this market with lots of big moves and trying to suck up the liquidity or flood the markets with liquidity. So it'll be fun to watch the volatility kind of ease off as we now. A lot of people are kind of doubting, and it really, as far as Bitcoin, the technology, and Bitcoin, the ecosystem, Bitcoin, the movement, the social movement, and the philosophy and the ethics behind it, it's much stronger than I've ever seen it before, much larger. There's so many more voices out there that are saying smart things. There was only a tiny, tiny fraction of people, and then there was the rest of us idiots blathering. Now there's all sorts of really smart people out there saying really cool stuff that I agree with. The echo chamber is getting bigger and bigger because the truth is so clear. And then needless to say, Lightning Network on mainnet. It's here and it's working, and it's really experimental, still alpha, but it's being used. The bugs are being found and fixed, and that is so crazy bullish. So what I think was happening here is classic pump and dump. Big players knew they wanted to get in. They got they threw some money in and a bunch of good press, and convinced their buddies to open futures on these markets. And then they're like, okay, great, now we got all the hype there. Crash the price and finally get our positions ready, because they weren't really collecting the positions until now. Now is when they're really grabbing their market share, and they can go, okay, now we're cool for the next pump, and they'll do it again. I bet you that we'll see another move that's bigger than 35% this year. This drop was what, 70%? It's a pretty big one. That's a solid one.
And let's not forget the big.
Forward.
the big pink elephant in the room here, okay? The primary reason we're having this burst is because of this massive altcoin bubble that started after Bitcoin had already peaked. I mean, Bitcoin peaked on December 17th. It wasn't until after the new year, right when the hedge funds came in, when they started pumping up everything. It started with Litecoin, went from 100 to 350 in like 3 days, and then Ethereum doubled, and then everything on the planet started exploding in price. And we are talking about, I mean, everyone on this panel knows 95% of all the altcoins are going to trend towards zero over time. They don't have use cases. The people who say they do, and it's this big crypto future, it's not a big crypto future. It's a future for the things that actually have use cases. And there will be many that have use cases, including some that are around now. But the vast majority will never have use cases. They are just pump and dump, unregulated, high speculative tech stocks with no liquidity, most of which you can't even buy with cash. You have to go to these ridiculous altcoin exchanges that you don't even know who's running them, just to exchange them for other altcoins. And that's the biggest reason. So the 80%ers that have caused this are the 80%ers that are getting killed. And I would bet there's a lot more losses in altcoins than there is in Bitcoin.
Yeah, I want to kind of echo what Andy's saying there, you know, talking about things trending towards zero. About 95% of the tokens on CoinMarketCap or CoinCap.io, you know, it's not just because they don't have use cases. I mean, some of them will have use cases, or they already do have like a vague use case and a small user base, but they're still going to trend towards zero, because if they are actually a utility coin that gains any sort of velocity as a currency for that platform, then, you know, if you, there's some really interesting theories out there about token velocity and it being a problem, which would cause the value of the tokens to trend towards zero over time, which I don't actually see as a bad thing if, you know, you have your successful marketplace with its app coin as a currency on that marketplace. And then over time, it's a race to the bottom, but, you know, people are still getting value out of using that platform for some time being. But the fact remains, the coin is still likely to trend towards zero, you know, according to some of these theories. And if you're interested in more of this, Kyle Samani on Twitter at Kyle Samani. And if you find his blog for Multicoin Capital, I believe the domain is multicoin.capital. He published a really great blog. I don't agree with a lot of his positions and arguments, but this write-up on token velocity being a problem for some of the utility tokens or the app coins is very fascinating. And you know, just to kind of piggyback on what Andy's saying there, they're still going to trend towards zero, even if they do have a use case, possibly.
I'd like to chime in on that if I could. I think that we're going to see an ecosystem in the future evolve around things like Starbucks coin. Like, I'm not saying I approve of it, but I want to give an example of a use case. If Starbucks came out with a mocha latte coin, and every time you used it in their store, and they gave you awesome perks and half off on your coffee or whatever, then that would drive the value of that coin up. And that I see as a valid use case of a utility token, and that can really be applied to any business. And the determining factor on its success would be whether or not the service provided is worth the demand for the coin. So whether or not we agree we need things like this, you could just use Bitcoin instead, sure. I see many companies following this kind of model to not only draw attention to themselves, but to kind of create a kind of new wealth class amongst these retailers.
And what I'm also hearing is, while it does sound a little horrifying to think about every company having their own coin and the complexities of holding Starbucks coin and trading it for Amazon coin and trading it for eBay coin and what you have to do to spend money these days, I think that'll all be handled by an AI, by an intermediary, someone that'll just go out and get you those Starbucks coins and trade them for your Bitcoin and then trade the change back, whatever it is. Gabriel D. Vine, your thoughts? Can I get you some Starbucks coin?
Did you call on me?
Yeah.
Great.
Although go ahead.
Excellent. I totally wanted to address this. I don't think that's tenable over the long term. The reason is because of digital liquidity on a very high speed. And I think that this was just addressed, actually. So if the whole point of a company issuing a pseudocurrency is that it's illiquid, Amazon credits are sold for dollars back and forth, but the liquidity is just really terrible, and it's very hard to push back and forth. And it's not like you can trade them like you can a crypto equity. And that's why Purse.io was so successful, is that they brought liquidity to the Amazon credit market for the first time by being an intermediary and trading it for Bitcoin, so that so that they could get a higher price, because the price on the wide market was 66 cents. It's about 83 on Purse. So the reason why Amazon likes these credits is because people lock value in them. They buy, say, a gift card, and then they're locking dollars in the Amazon ecosystem. When you have a asset inside of an ecosystem cycling around, even if the company eats it up and destroys them and makes new ones, that gives their credit value. It can hold up. If you're talking about pseudocurrencies that are cryptos floating on an open market, anybody can trade them peer-to-peer back and forth. What that means is that, as you said, if you have an AI or a decentralized network, or even just Changelly, being the middleman and helping you sell your sound Bitcoin for Starbucks coin right before you buy the coffee, that does Starbucks absolutely no good at all, because nobody is keeping their value in their ecosystem any longer than they absolutely have to, which offers them nothing. In fact, it's a negative, because there are going to be, fees for changing back and forth. Even if they're micro fees, it'll still be more expensive for them to accept Starbucks coin over the long run than it is to just work in Bitcoin and be part of the net, hot wallet fees, as well as their store of value. If the cash on hand, what you would now have in a bank account, or maybe in some sort of a bond, a corporate bond, or whatever these companies hold their store of value in, they can hold it in sound money Bitcoin and make far more money. So the incentives definitely line up against these type of company coins that are not some sort of app coin or ecosystem coin, where there's a profit share or some other incentive for people to hold it. If it's just a spending coin, then everyone will just trade them away as needed, and they'll just fall in value to nothing.
Micro fees are a good point, but then on the other hand, you could also get micro interest. And that's to say nothing about the metadata of tracking every single one of your customers back to their wallets. But we're going to talk more on this later.
What's the incentive for the customers, though? What's the incentive for the customers? Savings?
We give you no choice. Yeah, savings for sure. It starts out like everything. It's a royalty program. You shop at Safeway, we give you some free donuts. Customers love free donuts. All right, but we've had a couple of super chats. We want to just go ahead and shout out. Thanks to the previous super chat who sent us $10. It fell off the screen. And thanks to the current super chat, Julio, who sent us $5. Thank you for your support. But we have a little bit more topics to cover. Jeffrey Jones, do you want to introduce the next topic?
Yeah, let me just close out this one real quick, or just give me my thoughts on this one. So basically what we're talking about here is network effects, right? These programs already have things like reward programs, miles, gift cards, and things like that. And here I'm going to blow your mind a little bit. Amazon already has Amazon Coin. You can go and Google it and take a look and see. They have this token that, that's completely centralized that you can buy and use for Amazon stuff, but nobody cares. Nobody uses it, right? Because they got dollars. So for the average person, they really don't care about that. So, I don't see a future of like a million of these corporate coins. I still see having reward programs and miles and gift cards. I still see all that, but I see that going somehow over the Lightning Network, whether that's using Bitcoin or not. But, when you're talking about a future where everything is over Lightning with atomic swaps and instant transactions, I mean, anything is possible. You could create all sorts of different technologies over the top of that. So that's what's going to be interesting for me, is what will we build on top of this Lightning Network? What will we build? How will all of these tokens interact, and what happens when they can interact instantaneously for almost no fee, right? So that's what can come of that. I'm not sure, but I know that we'll always have some kind of reward program like that, and it is incentive to incentivize a miniature community, right? Like there's a group of people that want Starbucks. Starbucks wants to help that community get more Starbucks, so that completely makes sense, and that's not going to go away anytime soon. But I guess we can go ahead and introduce our next topic. And it's going to be kind of maybe a little bit controversial, maybe a little bit of a big topic, but a lot of people, of course, have been asking us all here at the World Crypto Network and many other people, I'm sure, about what we think about the Richard Hart interview. So I'm really curious to see what everybody's gonna what everybody's thoughts are on that. And I guess I'll go ahead and start because I'm curious to see what Thomas thinks too. But everybody, so let's go ahead and start this.
So
topic.
I haven't had a chance to see this interview yet, but could you maybe some of the audience hasn't either, summarize it for me
idea.
And maybe some of the audience.
Thank you very much, Will.
I've seen a lot of tweets, and I think I know what's going on, but I didn't see the interview. So
sure,
if you could.
I haven't seen it either.
Okay, yeah. So basically, just a quick summary. Richard Hart did an interview with Ivan on Tech, who is a developer who has a YouTube channel where he talks a lot about different coins and different tokens and the technologies behind them. And he had an interview with Richard Hart, where in this interview, Richard, very famous for being a Bitcoin supporter, a very famous Bitcoin supporter, pretty much kind of gave up on Bitcoin in that interview in front of like everybody. There was over 3,000 live viewers at least at the key point there, almost throughout the whole thing actually. And essentially, Richard Hart kind of gave up on Bitcoin for the most part. So he doesn't want to go into this another bear market. He's saying things like Ethereum only dropped a third, and Bitcoin dropped 2/3, which of course is not the same anymore. 24 hours later, but Ethereum dropped as well. So that's basically the gist of it. And again, Richard Hart, he's been in the space for a little while now, and he's given us a lot of good information. And it was very, very bullish on Bitcoin, and now seems to be capitulating and saying that we might not be able to, maybe Bitcoin is not as useful as he once thought it was. So I'm going to comment real quick on a couple things on it, basically. And then,
all right, let's go ahead and play some of the video. Also, we're getting reports that the screen share is not working. I think, Andy, you might be logged in as World Crypto Network, so we might look at that. I think we're just seeing a non-stop video of Andy. But let us know in the chat. I've been trying to move the screen around, but it doesn't look like it's been working.
Oh, really? Shucks. Yeah, because we've been seeing it here in the internal. We've been seeing you move into the screen. So, moving, Andy, if you are logged in as WCN, maybe you can just, you are. It says World Crypto Network. So if you could just log out and then log in as your own Andy account back into this same link, and let me know, on Slack if you need the link again or something. But yeah, log back.
Okay, I will do that right now.
Cool.
All right, and we're just going to go ahead and also, for the record, I haven't seen this interview either. I'm with the other people. I've seen the tweets. We're just going to play a little bit of the Richard Hart interview. People suggested this timestamp. I don't know if this is the most fair timestamp. This might be after he's broken down. And we're going to talk a lot about if we think Richard's okay, and if we think he's lost a lot of money, and if we think he's in a good mindset right now before we even try to understand what he said, what's going on here. So here's a little bit. Okay, so I can't hear this. Can you guys hear this? This is a live television.
Let's see.
Can't hear.
All right, so Soundflower is on. I had this set up beforehand. Let's try one refresh, and then we'll try something else. Nope. Oh.
It's okay. We can pretty accurately go over everything you said.
All right, go ahead, Andy. We'll try to fix it.
Well, look, people know that I can be contentious. It's part of my nature. I also I have a fight or flight reflex, and I like to be a leader. And I was talking to Vortex before this call. Does Bitcoin need leaders? Like, if no one on this network says anything, will it matter? Probably no. The price will still go up over time, and the network will still proliferate. But people do want leaders, especially all the new people, and we're happy to give it. And I do think it matters. And there are people who have been leaders in this community, who people, especially new people, trust. You can see how many Twitter followers they have to see who these people are. And so, when one of, I guess we say us, says things that are very contrary to what they've said before, us, the community, need to challenge it. And in this particular case, this is someone who has said for a very long time that he was the ultimate Bitcoin maximalist, and it's okay if he changes his mind. If he said today, I have changed my mind, everything I ever knew, I've changed my mind, that's fine. I mean, I've changed my mind about things. I certainly have changed my mind about precious metals. But, this is someone who just recently said Ethereum is a scam, and now he's saying Ethereum is the better investment. And he's also saying that, we're talking about corporate coins. He's saying Bitcoin is going to be destroyed by government, so it's going to be Amazon and Facebook coin that are going to be the leaders, because governments can't shut down your bank account if you have Amazon coin. They love Amazon coin. And then at the same time, he's saying, why would I want to pump up Bitcoin? It can only go up so much when I can pump up my own ICO. And altcoins have much more upside potential because they have, the unit bias. They're smaller market caps. And I'm listening to me, the rantings of kind of a lunatic, like he's saying the opposite of what he just said. And most of these things don't make sense at all. So I'm taking it to tax. Sorry.
Hey
Now,
guys,
I think first we have to start here about the messenger. We haven't talked about Richard Hart. I haven't wanted to throw him under the bus. He seems like a nice guy. But let's lay it all out here. He appeared on the crypto scene. He had a beautiful candelabra, a fantastic microphone, a great camera, and some really wacky backgrounds, including some fancy crystals and tapestries, a throne room. It's amazing, right? The guy popped out of nowhere. Everyone's like, who is this guy? He's
velvet brocade.
Velvet brocade, everything. He's talking big philosophy. He's throwing out lots of words. He talks really fast. He's a good talker, right? I like listening to him. I enjoyed his first couple of interviews with Chris DeRose, two guys with too much money sitting around saying, what are we going to do with all this money? That was interesting to me. But he wore on, and then there was kind of a fight between him and DeRose. I had heard that he said something to DeRose like, you should back away from this right-wing provocateur kind of Milo Yiannopoulos thing that you're doing and maybe go back to the crypto thing. And maybe DeRose didn't like this criticism. Maybe it was too close to the heart. But he got mad or something happened and he doxed Richard Hart. Right? So he doxed him all over the internet. And Richard Hart helped a little bit by putting out what he said is his real name. His real name, according to the Twitter and the internet, is Richard Schuler. After this name was released, Chris DeRose, for whatever reason, released images of Mr. Schuler's passports, maybe even other passports with different names, including all the names and all the little forms and all the barcodes. So he didn't blur anything. So that's a whole questionable decision in its own right. But suddenly the internet knew that Richard Hart was Richard Schuler. After that, Richard himself put a link up to an article purporting to describe Richard Schuler, the spam king. Back in the 90s, Richard Schuler was accused of being the spam king, sending out lots of emails that people didn't want, selling them products that maybe they didn't want or didn't need. That's the idea. And allegedly, some people assume this is how he made his money. Richard kind of quieted down after this, and then you still have to change your username, Andy, in the corner when you log out. But so he quieted down after this. But then he came back with a series of philosophical videos talking about Bitcoin in the long form. And he seemed to have become not only a Bitcoin holder long term, but a Bitcoin pumper on Twitter. He put his name to 20K Richard Hart and then 50K Richard Hart. And everyone was very behind it on the way up and everyone was very happy and excited. And then we kind of drifted over the top there and the 50K went away and the 20K went away. And we were just left with Richard Hart. So in these new interviews, apparently he's down on Bitcoin. Apparently, maybe he sold his Bitcoin. Maybe he bought margin longs or shorts, had a bad trade. And let's not forget, part of the reason that DeRose was mad at him, or allegedly that he deserved to be doxxed, was because he was going to start his own ICO. Apparently, that's gone down the line. He's ready to announce the token. It's happening. I don't know the details, but that could be another reason. If you have something else to sell, you stop selling the first thing. But I saw a lot of people wanted to talk about this while I was talking. Gabriel Devine, did you have more to say on this, or what do you think of that summary?
Yeah, I actually got to run pretty soon, but Richard, joined us on the show. I'm not sure how he ended up coming on. I guess it was during some specials. He reached out to you. I'm not quite sure, but
he was a good talker, and he was always welcome here to talk about the price or the price drops or whatever the news was.
Yeah, so he came on, like you said, a fast talker like DeRose. They're both Floridian. That's possibly of a point that we should all consider. Yeah, I mean, I was never really that. I didn't find that Richard added all that many new perspectives, and I was not that interested in his style. I'm not particularly a fan of Richard's. I don't think he's an asshole either or anything. I definitely don't follow him on Twitter. I found his tweets kind of spammy, to be honest.
Gabriel, let's not completely bury the man here.
Oh, I'm not. You know, I think he was very nice and personable when we talked to him on the show and before and after. I have nothing against him at all. But on the other hand, I have, you know, unlike some of the other panelists here, I haven't really found much of his commentary all that interesting. Occasionally, he said some interesting things. He's you know, he's obviously an entrepreneur, and I think he's said some really interesting things about business. You know, I don't have that background. I'm a recent entrepreneur, so that was pretty cool. But certainly nothing about Bitcoin that I thought was particularly interesting or unique. And but I did find that, like as you kind of alluded to, he was very much on the sort of spammy, pumping type of very political type of, you know, what you might call market manipulation or social effects, right? He was trying to make a name for himself, and I'm pretty sure that's the ICO was the plan all along. You know, he probably saw. It seemed like it, and because it was relatively light on content, but very, very high on hype and production value. So whenever that happens, I'm extremely skeptical. And so, you know, my skepticism made me kind of ignore him. And so I've been kind of ignoring him the whole time, and I don't really care about this interview. It kind of superficially reminds me of David Seaman, who, in my opinion, is actually an excellent investigative reporter. But he also reported on cryptos back in 2014 and 15. And at some point during the bear phase, he just lost his faith and like freaked out. And this kind of reminds me of that, where it's just another person who really hasn't quite done their homework and doesn't really understand the you know, network effects in play, doesn't understand the value of sound money. I mean, you know, Richard, in this interview, I did see a few minutes of it. He was talking about how you know, hype and scams are more profitable than sound money. So that's why he doesn't like Bitcoin. And it's just like, well, you know, there is a moral angle to this, but he's from Florida. So what can you do? Anyways, that's all I have to say about Richard ever again. I wish Richard the very best. I have absolutely nothing against him personally, although I think most ICOs are scams. I hope his isn't, and he does great. And I wish him all the best. And I also wish you all the best. Bitcoin is doing great as far as I'm concerned. It's a wonderful technology. It's changing the world, and it's wonderful to watch. Love you guys. See you later.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, Gabriel, for being on.
Let me just say this one thing. If there's one thing that's going to come out of this episode, is that his personal network effect is going to go down a lot. So if he thought that this coming out and going against everything he's ever said is going to make people want to buy his ICO, he's going to find out that there's going to be an ugly truth behind it. And the other thing is, this whole crypto crash, as I said, it's all about the scams being purged. That's what I wrote this morning, the healthy and necessary purge. Bitcoin doesn't need purging, but the altcoin sector does. And we're not going to see this thing going forward where all you have to do is say, hey, look, I got a coin, buy it from me. Hey, I'm a well-known personality, buy it from me. I got Civic, buy it from me. No, this is going to be a time where you're going to have to discern yourself with actual development and use cases, and not just say, I got some notoriety, you know, buy my coin. And so that's what I'm looking forward to in the next phase of Bitcoin.
Well, we are seeing a wholesale selling of Richard's reputation. And we often talk about reputation and how what you do matters, and how in a lot of ways the internet is just a reputation machine. You do good work, you go up. You do bad work, you go down. For more on this, Vortex on Richard Hart.
Yeah, so you know, it's important to understand the reasons why we are commenting on this. A couple, you know, the first off, Richard Hart is a rather kind of you know, large media person in the space, right? He's got a lot of followers, he's got a lot of presence in the space. So you know, like I said in the beginning, when I was describing it, there was over 3,000 live viewers almost for that entire conversation. So, you know, another reason is we need to have examples in the space of what not to do, right? There needs to be an example out there so that we can learn our lessons. There's many lessons to be learned, like was mentioned earlier, you know, with David Seaman, and then now Richard Hart. There will be many more of these lessons to be learned of what not to do, of seeing what happens when we're in a bear market. Because again, there's so many people that have said this, the heroes will shine, in the worst of times. That's when you got a hero, right? Is when he can still understand the fundamentals in the bearish times. So this is what we're seeing. We're seeing super intelligent people and go completely crazy, right? Like this is what bear markets can do to people. And so I want to again mention to the people that this is why we're commenting on this, because we have to understand what can happen.
It's a cautionary tale,
Absolutely.
what we see with Richard. And I didn't know that he had any plans for an ICO. And I also think, from the little I know about and the tweets that I've read, the comparison between him and David Seaman is pretty interesting. Although it sounds like with Richard, what he's experiencing is what on the video interview anyway was like a breakdown, an emotional breakdown, perhaps. So something's hitting home for him, and people say things they don't mean when they are having an emotional breakdown. People they'll test the opposite of their previous point of view, during an emotional breakdown. You kind of lose all reason for a while. And this happened in public with thousands of people watching live. So I feel for him in that regard. I don't know if he had like a major loss. It sounds like he had lost a lot of money from some of the tweets I've read. So that would certainly do it. I know that happened to David Seaman. Of course, he was starting to dabble in some of the early, I say early, but I guess it was the second phase of altcoin creation, with things like Hyper and Razor Coin and anything Bruce Weiner was making, really. But I don't know Richard at all. I just know his Twitter personality, and he just seemed like another Twitter personality, like Wolf of Poloniacs or Whale Panda or these kinds of guys. And it's a shame that he kind of discredited himself with such a radical opposition to his previous viewpoints. And it is a cautionary tale in a number of fronts. So many of us are ridiculous, retarded bulls on Bitcoin for years now. I am guilty of that. And to be honest, I haven't ever really kept the right amount of, let's say, fiat in my personal portfolio over the years as I was trying to, create a career in this industry and survive while that was happening, especially during that long bear market period. You need to, no one's going to sell at the top all the time, and you're not going to buy the bottom or all the dips all the time, but you need to have some dry powder. And this is a hugely important point. Just a few months worth of living expenses. And if you're hand to mouth, do not be all in crypto. If you're paycheck to paycheck, do not go all in on crypto. You buy buy your dollar cost average strategy if you're hand to mouth, if you're paycheck to paycheck, or even if you don't have savings of, like, let's say a three months emergency fund worth of fiat. But that comes in handy if you have some savings like that. It's wise. So I think, it feels weird to say that on this network, because I've been, over the years, if you do a search, you could just hear all these, all the buy Bitcoin, pro Bitcoin stuff from my mouth and from the mouths of the others on this network. And I still feel that deep down. I think we all do. I feel for Richard Hart. I wish people wouldn't, throw themselves to the wolves like this or expose themselves so much to the public. If it's true that in the 90s he had some of these other sort of, I don't know what to call them, the business ideas that maybe were spammy or fringe, then it certainly brings into question his intentions for getting into crypto in the first place. And I think this is something I wanted to mention during the last topic. One of the advantages of this boom, whether it was the altcoin bubble or everyone coming to Coinbase and buying, Bitcoin and Ether and Litecoin and whatever, there's a huge advantage that every time there's a downturn in price, or for any period of time that people are deciding to hold on or not day trade, but just like ride out the bumps and the peaks and valleys, they're actually becoming indoctrinated in the new decentralized ethos of, digital freedom. and, you know, sovereign individuality and things like that. I encounter so many people that I'm surprised hold crypto, and they only bought it in 2, 3, 4, 8 months ago. And they're starting to strike up. These are people who come from all stripes, all backgrounds. They come from backgrounds that would typically not be interested in cypherpunk ideals or, you know, like financial freedom even. But their shells are cracking, and they're starting to realize what this is all about, you know? So even things like, and I get a lot of flack for this, you know, I would never recommend buying anyone's crypto products. Don't buy to be in someone's paid Telegram group. Don't buy any paid newsletters. And this is my opinion, but definitely don't buy products from James Altucher and Ty Lopez. But these guys have massive audiences of millions of people, and they are beginning to educate these people on the fundamentals of crypto in their free content. And if you look at their free content, it's very encouraging in terms of you look at the amount of reach they have on social media and the networks and the brands they've built up. They are beginning to indoctrinate and baptize the masses into some of these cypherpunk ideals. And I am so excited for this to really take root. And so, you know, in light of Richard Hart, you know, this is maybe, I don't know, let's hope for him, kind of a wake-up call. And it seems some of the tweets I read more recently, it seems like he's calmed down a bit. He's getting support from the community. People are encouraging him, and they're saying, you know, we'll welcome you back to Bitcoin at any time and things like that. And I think that's, you know, about this is all I used to say, Bitcoin is the only money in the world no one is forced to use. And I still think that's a great concept. A great way to teach people about Bitcoin, just to get them thinking. So Richard Hart, you know, heal up, buddy. And yeah, take care of yourself.
I think it's a good point to bring up that there have been so many rage quits in the past, from David Seaman to Mike Hearn. Even a Bitcoin core developer has rage quit, sold all his Bitcoin, and fled into the woods. So we do hope that Richard's okay. And like we said earlier, if you've lost a large amount of money on Bitcoin, if you've invested too much and you need help, please call the suicide hotline, talk to a friend, talk to someone. Don't let this just go bubbling up. For more on this, Jeffrey Jones, what do you think?
Yeah, just a quick comment on, because Will brought it up, of these people like Ty Lopez and other people. You know, they're kind of funny because a lot of them say, like, you know, I don't care so much about money, but then they constantly show photos of their orange Lamborghinis and always have a Lambo in their background of their videos and stuff like that. So just a little bit of kind of ironic irony there. But yeah, I mean, you know, just I'll comment on Richard Hart now because it's everybody else has already. So it's my turn. You know, like I was saying, there is a reason for us commenting on this, right? We are exploring this, these people and these concepts in the space. And, you know, Richard is, you know, he's got an incredible amount of knowledge. This guy is an entrepreneur, has more life experience, you know, than 2 or 3 of me, at least, I guarantee you. This guy's been around the block a couple of times. He knows what's up and on a lot of different subjects. And, but I do feel like he might have kind of started caring more about the fiat part of Bitcoin than Bitcoin itself. It feels like he kind of starting to care a little bit more about the money, you know, because he did do his best to try to help bring the price of Bitcoin up, right? But I think he might have got a little lost in that and like almost put his whole reputation on it. And just like, look, like I'm 20K BTC Richard Hart, now I'm 50K BTC Richard Hart, you know, and you got a little bit too caught up.
Yeah, he may feel there's egg on his face, and yeah, it's interesting. You bring up a good point. You know, if he's looking, if anyone out there is looking at the fiat value of their crypto portfolio, if you own even 2 or 3 different cryptos, you're going to be extremely disappointed. But, you know, I get paid in cryptos from different projects that I work with from time to time. And so I have some of these coins. I don't trade. I don't really sell them. I'm just holding. And if I looked at the fiat, I never look at the fiat value, but every time I'm checking the prices, I see Bitcoin's going down. I see the sea of red, but I look at the Satoshi value of my portfolio, let's say, and it hasn't really moved much.
It's also worth saying that sometimes it's time to uninstall that Blockfolio app. Sometimes you just shouldn't look at it anymore. We had a whole bad turn there where I told people to get jobs. I don't know if it's that bad. It seems pretty bad. I hope, like Will's saying, people have sold enough money to live the next couple of months. We don't really know.
Well, everyone
but-
can have a job tomorrow. I mean, if you, well, I'll just say it. I'm going to plug something, guys. I'm hiring a number of positions related to growth hacking and social media for crypto payments in the crypto space. So, find me on Twitter, DM me, email me, whatever. There's jobs tomorrow if you want in crypto. You can,
and there's also
pick
a
up
lot
day
of
work.
entry-level customer support jobs. If you know what Bitcoin is, you can explain to someone what it is over the phone. You could work customer support with Bitcoin and probably do very well. Even more advanced things like trading altcoins. You might think it's nothing that you log into Bittrex and trade some Bitcoin for Litecoin and Litecoin for Ethereum, then you take it out. You know more than half the people on the planet. You're ready for work. But I think we have more from Jeffrey Jones on Richard Hart.
Yep. Just a couple more things. Will keeps getting inspired by my by my points here, but yeah, no.
I'm sorry.
Hey man, this is what we're about, dude. This is the passion that's in the game, and it is absolutely sad to see one of our soldiers kind of go down. It's always sad to see losing a soldier in battle, as we will continue to do, because there's going to be a lot more soldiers that go down before this game is over. This will play out over decades, and when I see the expressions that Richard had, when I saw the video and I saw him get, emotional, you can tell that, he again got into the money a little bit too much, got into the dollar part, the fiat part of it a little bit too much, because it looks like, I don't want to, just speculate wildly here and things like that, but he has advocated, using leverage. Right, he has advocated using leverage in the past, and so I kind of feel like he might have been longing the whole way down, and got stopped out a couple times, because the look on his face was the look of a person who has lost a lot of money. It was not the look of a Bitcoin hodler. It was not the look of somebody who understood market cycles, that this is just going to go back up, pretty soon. This is not going to be a multi-year bear market or anything like that. These are just cycles. We're going to be back to 10K soon enough. But especially with the halving coming, there's just huge things, guys, in the works. So we will be back up very shortly. But again, you can't get too attached to the dollar part, to the fiat part, right? If we're trying to replace this system one day, if we're trying to be the system, that's outside of the system one day, we have to not care so much about the other system. One day, you guys, this is the end days. We are in the battle right here. This is the end, and this is the end day battle. This is going to play out over decades, and we have this choice that we can do, right? We can go the police state route that we're going to, with complete financial control from the central bankers and the elites, right? Or we could go Bitcoin. So we have only these two paths. There's only two paths. They are now merging. We're deciding right now as a planet, what do we want? What do we desire? What are we going to do? Are we going to continue listening to these freaking retards, these central bankers, these people who claim these Weiss ratings, right? All of this nonsense. Or are we going to build something better? And it looks to me like the world is choosing to build something better. Obviously, we have the regular paid people, the 80%ers, the weak hands. They're going to always sell. That's not going to stop. Just wait till we get to 100K and drop to 30K. Okay, just wait till that happens, because that's coming. That's going to be here one day. So get used to these drops. I got a lot of tweets that people were saying, thank you, Vortex, for calming us down and telling us about these things. But look, guys, the charts are all there, guys. The data is all there. You have to be able to think independently. You have to be able to understand this. And yes, I'd love to help you guys out, right? And make you guys feel better. But at the end of the day, you guys are the ones that has to handle this, right? You guys are the ones that are going to have to survive this bear market. And when you do, let me tell you, when you do, I promise you will be a better person for it. You will understand so much more. You will be so far ahead of the game that you will be able to, affect change. And so, just again, guys, people like Richard, don't be like Richard, guys. Don't long all the way down. Don't get too attached to the fiat. Realize that this is a multi-decade long game.
I think it's also worth saying that if you're a more complex trader, like we're assuming perhaps Richard used margin or used a limit order or something like that, you can't just say hold. He might have been holding, but then he got called and he had to pay, and now he's holding nothing. Or if you had a limit order on the way down, your limit order could get claimed. It goes right back up. You're holding nothing. So if you are a more complex trader, you're making more complex risks. But one more word on this from Andy Hoffman. Go ahead.
Right. And I think everything has been said on this particular topic. Again, I don't wish ill will on Richard, but I will, like all of us, call out people who say things that are not in the best interests of the Bitcoin community. That's the end of that story for me. The bigger picture here is for people to realize what's going on right now is financial market movements. This is still a very small sector, and after what's happened this last month, it's a really, really small sector. Right now, it's a $300 billion market cap, of which, you know, a part of that is Ripple, which isn't even part of the community, and Bitcoin is only, you know, barely over 100 billion right now. So you have a lot of volatility and a lot of thinly traded assets right now. You're in a risk-off phase in the financial markets in general. The Dow closed down, probably had its worst day. I would say its worst day since the financial crisis of 2008 today. I mean, it was that big of a drop for the Dow, about 5%. So people are going to, you know, I think you're going to see some changes in the financial markets in the coming weeks and months, because I think central banks are going to take a more overt active role, which is going to be very supportive of our little tiny Bitcoin market. At the same time, our little tiny Bitcoin market is stronger than it's ever been before. And if it proved one thing today while we were on the call, is that it is digital gold, because probably if the Dow was not down 1,000 points, we'd probably be talking about $6,000 Bitcoin right now instead of $7,000 where it is. So people, just relax. If you are a long-term hodler, it stinks, but guess what? You're probably in the green after, or the black after all of this. And if you bought high, well, it stinks, and you're going to have to think of, you know, financially how to deal with it. But you know, we're not going away, and I assure you, there's going to be a huge, quote, Wall Street bid under the market, if not here, but very near to it.
All right. Thanks, Andy. And thanks for being on the show, Andy.
My pleasure. Talk to you later, guys.
All right. Talk to you soon. All right. Let's go to Corey. We haven't heard from you in a while. What do you think about all that's been said, Richard Hart and more?
Well, I've been talking to Richard Hart back and forth lately because, well, let me back up just a little bit. I handle all the behind-the-scenes stuff at World Crypto Network. I handle all of the iTunes uploads. I basically convert all of our videos into audio, and I've been collecting contributors from around the space for the last couple months. We've added Adam Meister, Andy, obviously, and, well, it just so happens that yesterday we added Richard Hart to the audio podcasting lineup, and that's all I have to say about it.
And those should be some really good must-watch shows. You got to figure he's going to keep talking about Bitcoin. It's been sad to see Richard go bare on Twitter too. This started a couple of days ago. He started to turn. I liked his positive tweets. I don't like his middling to negative tweets. It makes people nervous. Sorry, Corey, I cut you off. Go ahead, more.
It's cool, but you know, if I had a nickel for every time I said something I didn't mean or that I regret 10 seconds later, you know, I'd have a huge stack of nickels. So, you know, I don't really put too much sentiment into what he said and what happened. If he got wrecked financially, man, that can devastate you emotionally, and it comes out in all kinds of ways. I have faith he's still with us. I have gained some insight from his rants on Bitcoin. I do appreciate him in the space. I like him personally, and I hope that everything works out. And that's pretty much it.
And I think that's a good positive tone. I also want to address what people are saying in the chat. We're not roasting Richard here. I think we're being very fair and critical of what he said. We're addressing it. I wish I could have played the audio and the other video for you, but that didn't work out technically. And I will check it out later. But I think we're being fair and open. A lot of people here care for Richard as a person, even if he started his ICO, even if he's lost a lot of money, even if he's not feeling good about Bitcoin anymore. We still care about him as a person. And it's about more than money. But I think we're towards the end of this show. So maybe we'll just go once more to Vortex and then to Will. The price of Bitcoin is $7,125. That's up from $66,000 when we started this show. Not saying that's a coincidence, but obviously there's a correlation there. Jeffrey Jones.
Yep. Yeah, about time to close out the show here. So, yeah, I mean, again, you know, I have to agree. I don't believe that we're trying to, you know, bury Richard or do a hatchet job, anything like that. Again, Richard, you know, is going to have his streams on the WCN audio podcast. And again, thank you so much, Corey, for managing that. Corey's been handling the majority of all of our audio for some time now. So definitely thank you so much for that, Corey. Because of Corey, you guys, you know, all of our stuff ends up on SoundCloud and iTunes, and so you guys can hear that. So so thanks so much for that, Corey. But again, with Richard, you know, we're not doing any type of hatchet job, and of course, we'd love to have him on again, as we had him on in the past. I've had him on my show, you know, and so that's that. But again, you know, we're all in this together as a community, so we're all here to discuss. I'm sure that I'll appear with Richard at some point. Richard will appear with me. You know, we'll collaborate somehow. So just really feel for everybody out there who is new to the market, to these weak hands. I just hope that the strong hands who follow people like me, who follow people like Thomas and everybody here, you know, I just hope that they can see, you know, that holding is the right decision here, right, over long term. I hope that they can look to the examples that we set and be able to have a little bit more calm, be a little bit more calm and prepared. Because again, this is not the last rally. This is not the first rally. You know, Bitcoin went from hundreds of dollars to pennies, thousands of dollars to just a couple $100. You better believe it's going to go to hundreds of thousands of dollars and then down to tens of thousands. So this is definitely not the last rally. I'm expecting the next one to be even larger, and I'm just super excited to be in the space, super excited to bring you guys this information. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of stuff this year. So we're going to be talking a lot of Bitcoin on my show.
7,200 going to Will in closing.
So we're on the way back up. I don't think it's bounced very strongly from what I'm looking at, but it's looking good. If people are looking for, you know, the turnaround, I really do think at the end of the month, maybe the third week of the month, you see things looking much differently. This is, you know, I have my own personal hunches. You know, and I also look at the yearly trend of this happening. This is kind of what happens. And it's awesome that you guys have Richard on WCN, and I'm grateful to be back for an episode. And anytime you guys want to throw an invitation my way, please feel free. I love coming back on and being with the family. So yeah, I hope all the people out there, you know, take solace in the fact, if you need to de-risk, you know, get yourself a couple weeks or a couple months worth of fiat for living and just sit on the sidelines and hold the rest. You know, hold your crypto and just be on the sidelines and watch. You don't need to make a move during every market move. You don't need to make money on every single, you know, crash or spike, you know. And it doesn't look like a crash to me. It looks like maybe some manipulation, but definitely some consolidation and accumulation is happening right now. So that's, I guess that's where I'll leave it. And thanks everybody for having me back. It was great to see you guys again.
All right, and once more to Corey, anything in closing?
Yes. So my goals with World Crypto Network are to grow our audio podcast. What I really want everyone to do is go to iTunes, subscribe to our feed. Just to let you know the direction we're going, Adam Meister's iTunes numbers have surpassed his YouTube consistently now for the last couple of weeks. Before you know it, every show on the network, the audio is going to blow away the YouTube numbers, and I need your guys' help to get us there. So go over to iTunes, hit subscribe. If you need to get a hold of me, you can message me at the World Crypto Network Twitter.
All right, definitely check out the World Crypto Network podcast on iTunes. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up. We've got a $5 super chat. Help me, Oprah. Help me, Tom Cruise. Help me, Satoshi. The invisible fire is killing me. I don't know what that means, but we'll put that out there. And just like to thank everybody for watching us, listening to us. We had more than 1,400 live viewers here. That's really good. I think a lot of people are worried about the price. Hopefully this has calmed you down a little. And again, like Will said, if you are over invested, if you need to sell some. If you need help, please contact the suicide hotline. Please contact a friend. There are people out there that want to talk to you. Even if you lost a lot of money, it might come back if you hold, or maybe you can have other investments, other jobs in the future. Things will turn around. Personal thing, if you want to check out the Mad Bitcoin's Twitter, I've got a new article today I wrote over on Steemit. I'm going to be doing my book column there, books that I read every month. It's fun to try out the Steemit, and I also described some of my past posts on Steemit. They accidentally made a lot of money, as it turns out. If you're new here, please subscribe down below. We have about 70% subscribed, but there's still 30% unsubscribed. So we're looking for you to push that button. So subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on iTunes. Like Corey said, check out iTunes. We got Tone Vase, Jimmy Song, Adam Meister. I said it right. I hope I said it right. No, Meister. I got no chance. Oh, Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, not Mister, the Bitcoin Mister. That's different. So we got them all on the World Crypto Network, and we're running out of time. Until next time, bye bye.